Good morning, Desert Hot Springs. Oh, it's morning time. We're doing our first broadcast of morning news, and I'm excited to do this for the first time here with you guys. And we're gonna have some fun this morning. It's not gonna be very long. We'll do just a short little brief rundown of some news that came across this morning or last night. We'll just go over the day's news and how it applies to Desert Hot Springs, and also we'll talk about there's a city council meeting coming up this Tuesday in Desert Hot Springs. So it's Monday. What day is it today? Or May what? May 20th. Monday, May 20th, 2019. So it's gonna be a good day. It's nice and cool out there. It's chilly morning. It's a little bit biting chilly. I love it. I know we're gonna get some warm days, so a lot of people complain about the cold, but there's plenty of warm days here, so I wouldn't complain myself. So got my coffee going. Hope you had your coffee this morning. Now, what I like to go over is a little bit of Yahoo News, and then just this is my morning reading the paper, finding out what the messages are for the day, what they're putting out there, hope I got an internet, yeah. Well, this is a Yahoo I pulled up a little while ago, and I think it's important to read between the lines. Like I said yesterday when I interviewed the really gracious Henry Cisluski, who came over, who lives here in Desert Hot Springs. I thought I think he's a level-headed guy when all things considered, and reading between the lines was what I brought up. I think I might have brought that up with Mr. Damaris too, but because there are things hidden in news that are affecting you, and it may go over your head, because that's what some of this stuff is. Like, if you look, for example, here's the Yahoo page for today's news, and the headline is "Trump warns Iran not to threaten U.S." So some war drums are beating, and that affects all of us, because when the country potentially goes to war, things are disrupted. Confidence is disrupted a little bit. Some oil. If it's Iran, there's oil strategic oil locations out there, so people start to worry a little bit. But one thing I noticed recently on the Yahoo page was you have a sponsored story here, and then you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and another sponsored, and then you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and another sponsored. Do this instead of buying solar. So when you look at something like a Yahoo page, they obviously have too few articles. So they're filtering in. Every fourth article is a sponsored, means it's paid for. Somebody paid to have and it's an ad. They want to get your business out of it. Medicare cuts on the way for California seniors. So it looks like a news article, but it's from MedicarePlan.com. So they herd you a little bit into what they want you to read. So here's Lifestyle Daily, the most successful lawyer in Desert Hot Springs. See the list. So when you click on that, there's some money made, and they can also feed you something they want to get money out of you over. So I thought that was interesting. That's a little side thing to the news, but nothing really sticking out in the Yahoo News. I check about 4 different sources each morning. One I go to is the Drudge Report. I'm not sure if any of you know what the Drudge Report is, but it's a website. It's actually one of the most busy news sites. I think it beats out CNN and all these by a long shot. So Drudge Report was founded by a Jewish guy years ago, and he kind of amalgamated interesting news he thinks is worth reading. And it's just a simple page he's got here, but he gets a lot of traffic. It's about national and international news, and his headline is Mayor Pete Standing Ovation, Fox News Town Hall, Trump Simmers. So he's covering, whatever stands out the most, he puts at the top in the main part of his page. And then you got, here's a headline over here, Ford to eliminate 10% of workforce. Now the reason I'm gonna include so much national news in my brief little morning um, powwow, I think we'll call it here for today, just with anybody who wants to tune in and watch this, is because a lot of this trickles down to Desert Hot Springs. You may have family members who work for Ford, and if they eliminate workforce, their futures, you worry about their future. So everything's tied together somehow, with small threads and big threads, and then rope and big cables. It's all tied together to just about everybody who lives in the country, who's cares about the country. So that's one. It's not surprising, because over here on the Desert Sun, I looked at this last night, and it said something about I'll have to search it. It talked about California and cars. I don't know why, but where is it here? California. It was a Desert Sun article from a couple days ago. Do a quick search, see what comes up on the Desert Hot Springs, or on the Desert Sun page. It basically said something about, should California ban cars, and it said yes, but not yet, or something like that. It was weird. And that ties to the city council meeting that's coming up on Tuesday in Desert Hot Springs. So maybe I'll get into that tomorrow or something like that. There's time. But another one that showed up here is dispute over Desert Hot Springs groundwater picks up steam in latest report. So I watched this last night and found that interesting. There's a woman named Greta Carter. She's tied to the marijuana, cannabis industry here in Desert Hot Springs. The federally illegal, but it's state passed, I guess. I don't know how that. I'm for state sovereignty, that's for sure. But I'm not sure how that's going to work out in the future. But they talk about how the control of the water is being pulled away from.
The issue for us is that water is our life here in Desert Hot Springs. We are the spa city.
So they got a group must be called Desert Hot Springs Agua Warriors, and they're she's surrounded by her signs here, and everything. You have to look at everything. You can't just hear the words. You can't see that she looks like she's stressed over this. She's got her head down. That's all part of what goes on. Sorry, springtime, flies are busy. So everything has to be dissected. But let's listen to it.
And the very thought, Hot Springs, we are.
Let's go back.
Water is our life here in Desert Hot Springs. We are the spa city. And the very thought that DWA is trying to control something that is our heritage and our life is unconscionable to me. For over 65.
Okay, it's unconscionable to her. So what's going on is centralized control of the water. In about 3 weeks ago, and I wrote an article about this on my website, newsanddhs.com. I wrote an article after kind of just visiting the Word of Life Worship Center on Pearson. Pastor Shepard runs that, or heads up that congregation, and it just so happened the day I stopped by on that Sunday was a day that I think the water spokesman for Mission Springs Water District was there, and he asked everybody to just go to the back after the service and listen to what he had to say about this. And he gave about a half an hour talk about what's going on with this, and he broke it all down. He said he went back in the timeline and said that they hired Desert Water Agency to do some consulting for them to kind of do some advising and things like that. I don't know his exact words, but they weren't in control of the water. Well, slowly they've taken over control, and they went to the state of California in Sacramento, and they took part in a law that basically handed them control of the water. And now Mission Springs Water District is trying to claw back and get that control back. He said basically your only option at this point is to go kind of protest and put up signs and picket. It's done. It's sealed. It's done. Desert Water Agency is in control, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion. And it all ties in and fits well with the plan to centralize everything. Now it's easy to see because centralized control. I mean, I'm going to show you an article in a little while that shows that the Pope is calling for a global government to fight climate change. And there are clips for half an hour of world leaders calling for global government, which is one government for the globe. Now I know you go ahead and say conspiracy theories, but it's fine with me. I don't care. They say it themselves. The people that run Goldman Sachs bank, the people that run the IMF, the people that run the EU, they all say it. They all call for global government. Even Obama called for it. So when you see it at this local level, when you see this centralization, you see the control going to a finer and finer group, higher and higher up. It's all part of the plan. So it's disingenuous. To me, it's very, very fake for these people. Unless these people are being used for their emotions, it's very fake to see them worried about this when it's going on in everything. I mean, everything, your food, it's being centralized. Your healthcare is being centralized. That's what Obamacare was. It put centralized control over healthcare within the government. It didn't spread it out over all these independent healthcare offices where they could do what they want, treat the way that they wanted to. No, it's all in a centralized computer now, so they have to type in the symptoms, and the centralized system, which is called Watson, gives out in some cases gives the prescriptions and how to treat them. So it's becoming very very controlled from one point. So with the water, that's what's happening too. They're pulling away, and our city council, in my opinion, including the mayor, they are there to facilitate that. They are there to hand off, to put. I had one here earlier. Like a file folder, and to take each city and slip that city right into the file. So that it's handing over, it's colonizing every city into a centralized system that can then command and control every place the same way. So let's watch a little more of the news report.
5 years, Desert Hot Springs, or Mission Springs Water District. 5 years, Desert
How
Hot
many
Springs
years?
life is unconscionable to me. For over 65 years,
65 years.
Desert Hot Springs, or Mission Springs Water District, has managed successfully our water rights and has made decisions on where that water goes, how that water is managed, and we've been happy with those decisions. Desert Water Agency was originally brought into the group as a contractor to help us bring water into the valley.
That they've designated themselves as the groundwater sustainability agency for this area, and they're trying to basically supersede MSWD's controls, or so it seems.
Through some complicated
They're not trying to. They have. They went to Sacramento, and it's done. It's now law.
political maneuvering, they made application to take over managing our water. It's a complicated issue.
See, she's trying to play it down. Like, it's not quite there yet. You know, it's not. I mean, if you really try to help, so to me, this is a fake crisis because it's too late. It's too late. It's over. It's a fake crisis that they're crying crocodile tears over this. Because, she said some political maneuvering. She's not giving you details.
MSWD's controls, or so it seems.
Through some complicated political maneuvering,
Why don't you just tell us they made it law? They slipped it into the law that they're in control.
they made application to take over managing our water. It's a complicated issue.
Too complicated
but
for you to
they did it
understand.
with navigating loopholes and without the involvement of Mission Springs Water District.
Yeah, well, Mission Springs Water District had its opportunity to watch what they were doing and to see that. I believe that Mission Springs Water District is actually on board with this, and I think this is a phony crisis. I think it was all going as part of the plan, and I think that this is a kind of a PR program here to quash a little bit of the backlash, to kind of like to to ease you into it. You know, like if you're dying, somebody will come and kind of take your head and kind of lay you down real gently and say, "Shh, it's okay, it's okay, you'll be all right. Just go to sleep." So that's what I believe this is. And the Desert Sun. You know, when I ran for mayor, I had to go there. I didn't have to, but I was invited to go there and speak in front of the board, the editorial board, and you know, they're on board with this stuff because this is the reason I'm on board with it is because if you take out a piece of this system and one piece, the whole thing will collapse. You know, if you so the news, the media relies on the city governments that are forwarding different agendas. The news media relies on that for whatever business they have. They are an arm of the government to get the message out that what the city government is doing by inserting the city into a file folder of a centralized system is a good thing, or to counter, you know, an opposition to that, because they're all working as one kind of corporation, moving ahead and getting their goals reached, which are easy to read. The goals are all out there. You know, I'll show you later if I can pull it up. The calls for global government. But let's see. I'm going to go to YouTube. And it I'm not saying Desert Hot Springs is global government, but it's the same plan. It's all driving towards funneling everything into a small controlling head. So you know, computers running a little slow this morning. So we'll see. World leaders call for global government. Let's see what comes up there. Multilateralism. World leaders and tech giants meet following. Cameron calls on fellow world leaders. Fight. See, they bury. Oh, you know what it is? It's what's that one? It's a compilation. You gotta get good at researching. So this Google tries to hide, and YouTube they try to hide this kind of stuff. So they'll bury it several pages down, and I don't have the time to make you wait for that. So we'll see if it's in a video over here, because DuckDuckGo doesn't quite censor, which is what I use to do a lot of searching, because they I'll pull it up for you another time. So let's see what's on independent news, newsanddhs.com. That's my site. I put a few stories on last night. I put the episode of the interview yesterday, and I have the Polish flag here because you know, Henry Cisluski called himself a stubborn Polak. I thought that was nice. So you can watch the video on here. I put it on here on YouTube last night, and here we're talking about. So he talks about Desert AIDS Project and a whole bunch of stuff. So that's up on newsanddhs.com, and then I posted that really awful video. Sorry, it was so awful. I didn't know it was going to be that bad when I walked out of the store. But it's very pixelated, and they cut the sound off. If you go to if you go to the earlier post about that on newsanddhs.com, you'll see there's a better video of it. It's a link to a Facebook page that I have that I just basically use just to put videos on and then download them. So there's nothing else on the page, just that one video. It's 1122334455. I just numbered it, some random thing. So some interesting stuff on there. I've also got recorded some interviews with people in downtown, which I'll be putting together in a nice package. There's no rush on that in the next coming weeks. I interviewed. Let's just say it's pretty powerful. People are really eager to talk, and when they talk, they share things that you know, are pretty interesting, because they're there on the streets. I'm talking about people on the streets. I'll just put it that way. So So Drudge Report, we'll see if there's some other stuff in here. Rocket almost hits U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Cops, woman's false rape claim led to innocent man's revenge. Google Schmidt breaking up big tech illegal. So yeah, you got Facebook and Google and Apple and all these big techs that are basically an arm of control for people. I mean, it's crazy. Think about what Facebook can do. Facebook by part of the country. If you know, in Facebook, it's a fact. Facebook is the news for people now. People get up in the morning and they don't do what I'm doing. They go on Facebook and they read what's the news for the day. Because if something happened in their city, their friends are going to post it. They're going to say, oh, there was a shooting, whatever street, and then so they're looking for that kind of stuff. But if you're relying on, that's why I go to multiple sources. So you're relying on, and it doesn't take long. You just kind of scan over, make sure there's nothing big popping up each day, and it looks the same most days. But if Facebook has the ability to feed you what it wants you to get, then it can shape the opinion of the residents in either the city or in the state or in the country. So it's very dangerous to go to one source for news, and it's so the story was big tech. He says it's illegal to break up big tech. Well, it's already too big. I mean, that's why they had banks back in 2008 that said too big to fail. Lehman Brothers. So what else do they have here? They've got some pretty upsetting things about society, some murders and stuff like that. But I don't get hung up on that. It's going to happen anyway. I'm not. It's not that I don't care. So nothing really stands out there. So we'll go to. I also check Google News. See what they're pushing as their top story and what they want you to take away from their news. And Trump lashes out at New York Times report that banks shunned him, says paper will fold. So Google News does not like Trump. Yahoo News does not like Trump. Most of the mainstream news doesn't like Trump. I think that's dangerous. I think it's dangerous in a way where it can lead to one-way thinking. And I lean more towards independent thinking, free thinking, rather than as Henry Suzuki here yesterday said. He said he was indoctrinated. I used that word, but he was basically what he was saying was he said if you're gay, they basically want you to be a Democrat. Who says? Well, it's what society says, and unfortunately, that's what happens, and that's because the vulnerability of the mind. So I talk a lot about reading between the lines when it comes to knowing what's being pushed and bridging those things, bridging those two things you can see. Well, there's a whole bunch of meat between there. So, the fact that humans can be manipulated in that way is I mean, I showed it to you in the video I made with David Desmarais, where they can get you to smoke cigarettes, through propaganda. They can get gays to be part of the Democrat Party when there's no reason. I mean, it's about free thinking, about side with what you want. But the if I didn't lean towards liberty, if I leaned some other way, I wouldn't want a group that leans towards liberty to have too much power. It's obvious that the majority of things out there, Facebook leans left, Google leans left, Apple leans left, all these, Twitter leans left, Instagram, which is part of Facebook, is going to lean left. You can't have this consolidation of ideology. Again, if it was back the other way, I would be against it too, because it's too dangerous. You have to divide up. I don't want total power. I want balanced power, which is what our Constitution says, and that's what we were talking about yesterday, Henry and I, which is about the balance. There's the home situation. There was no balance to it, or the businesses. I think it was with David also. We're talking about balance, about that's what it was. David and I were talking about the corporate side of what's coming to Desert Hot Springs, balancing out with small businesses. You don't walk on just your right foot all your life. You walk on both. You keep balance in life. And when we see the news favor one side, it's dangerous either way. It should be right down the middle, but it's not. So I would fight either way. If it was leaning one way, I'd fight to pull it back to the middle this way. If it leaned all this way, I'd fight to pull it back to the middle this way. So we'll see what might come up here. One other thing I do is I type in Desert Hot Springs. So we'll see if some local stories. Dispute over Desert Hot Springs groundwater management picks up steam in latest report. So that's the Desert Hot Springs page. And what's going on with Chief Dale Mondry? That's bizarre that it's just like nobody's talking about it. So I'll type in. I know there's a investigation going on, or I guess kind of like a Mueller report on Dale Mondry. My fear with that is that I know they like Dale Mondry, Chief Dale Mondry. I know they like him. I know they want him to come back, regardless of what happened. That's their goal. You can see that's what they want. The community that's all tied to the people that are elected in the city. The community that's all their friends went out right after and said we're gonna have a candlelight vigil and all this stuff. So they're trying to say bring him back, basically between the lines. That's between the lines. They're saying they want him back. They said don't judge him. He's nice. He's done good things. So my fear is that if they have this long drawn out investigation or looking into it, what's there to look into? There's texts there. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not his account, but he hasn't denied it. I don't know what that's all about. But if they draw it out, drag it, you know what happens? People forget. People forget what was going on. They'll totally forget about the Desert Hot Springs thing. And I wouldn't put it past some people who are pretty crafty in this city to stage some or relax some things and let some crime go up. And then they'll say, oh, we need our chief back. I mean, that's just what they do. I mean, it's not like, I'm not saying they're going to do that, but it's easy to pull back and let things kind of get a little crazy. They can throttle back the patrols. They can do that. Not to say that they want crime, but to say that they want the chief back. And they'll do whatever they have to do. They're crafty. They're very smart people. Very, very, very clever. So they'll come up with, and I'm not even saying our city would even come up with it. There's people above that. There's police unions. There's the Riverside County, Board of Supervisors. There's regional governments going on, regional governing of our areas going on, and there's state government going on. And if players are on the bench, or if they're in a timeout, and those players are key to, again, inserting the city, like the city of Desert Hot Springs, into a file folder that is now held by a centralized system, then they're going to work to get that player back on the field. So don't be naive, is what I'm saying. So that's 6 days ago. A pedestrian hospitalized Tuesday with major injuries, hit by a police SUV. I haven't seen that one. So coming up to Tuesday at the city council meeting, I'm going to pull that up. 30-year-old man suffered major injuries Tuesday morning after being struck by a vehicle. Officer reported on Palm Drive, north of Camino Campanero, around 1 a.m. The man who was taken to the hospital was struck by an SUV. Here's another thing about the news, and this part of me reading the news is dissecting what also goes on here. So you can have pedestrians struck by vehicles in Desert Hot Springs, and the news doesn't report it. And then you can have people that are struck by vehicles in Desert Hot Springs, and the news does report it. Now, when the news does report it, people believe that's the only one that's happened, because they don't report on the other ones that happened that didn't make the news. So there are times when the news can cover a person being hit by a car, and its timing is important, because and this one is close here. Not to say that I'm not saying the person was running across the road on purpose to get hit so that they can make a news story. I'm not saying that, but the news comes along. Police report, police scanners, police have the news can get what's happening almost live time with what the police are covering, what they're responding to, what the fire is responding to. So if the news knows where everything's going, the news can strategically time an article to come out right around the time when something is going to be voted on. Now, one thing that's going to be voted on, or not voted on, is it's going to be not hopefully. I think they're hoping they're going to approve the contract to put in the new construction that's going to happen between right in that zone where they're going to put the lights in from Avenida Campanero to I think it's up. What is it? 2 Bunch Palms, I believe. They're going to put in bunches, crosswalks, and stuff like that. So so let's put that up. Pull that up. And we'll see if I can pull up the agendas for the meeting Tuesday. Now they have to post the agendas on the city's website like 72 hours before the meeting happens. So they don't give you a lot of time to read it, but they do post it. So here we've got their agenda. We'll read it here, and then you've got. So you got a conference call, the presentation at 5:30. So Desert Valley Disposal Solid Waste Update. They're going to tell you about how they're doing with the trash pickup in the city. Probably, talk about their truck roams around picking up bulky items and stuff like that. Let's see if I can get this a little bigger. So then they got the administrative calendar, Desert Valley Disposal placing delinquent disposal billings on the county tax roll for fiscal year 2019. I think what this means is that they're going to put, the people who haven't paid their tax bills, they're paid their trash disposal bill, which is part of your tax bill. The people that haven't paid it, they're going to put it on the tax roll. I don't know. I know your trash is paid through the tax bill. So nothing really interesting there. It looks like just procedure stuff. Administrative calendar. Okay, so here we got a professional services agreement to prepare cost allocation plans for user fee study for the city. Authorized city manager to execute professional agreements for revenue cost specialists. Prepare a cost allocation plan for federal. So you can click on these, and then you've got all the paperwork that is scanned in about it. You can read those. Authorized city manager to execute. Background. In March 2014, the City Council awarded a contract to a consultant to work with staff to review the city fees charged for certain services and make recommendations to establish the full cost of providing services by the city. Primary objective of the study was to establish a consistent and objective-based fee and rate structure that was fair and equitable for the city. The study moved forward, and the final years of the fee study was presented. Discussion: Revenue and Cost Specialist LLC. So it looks like it's about. I'd have to dig into it, but it looks like it's nothing really. Looks like it's warning. They deal with outside groups to look after the finances and probably more. Another exhibit here, the contract for what they're going to pay this LLC. But you can read them. You can read through them. It's very interesting because sometimes stuff pops out that looks a little odd. Because remember, your city council and your mayor, they are supposed to be representatives of you. You can't sit up there and make those decisions. So that's why you have an election. You have an election to pick people that you think best represent you. And I don't think that's what we have. I think that they're water carriers for the most part. I go to some city council meetings and like for example the last one, they approved the grocery outlet, and the developer, the builder was there, from Sacramento. His business is in Sacramento, and he's built a whole bunch of grocery outlets. So he's a pretty wealthy guy. He's doing pretty well. And he they talked about how they didn't want to have Jake's Breaks. I mean, I'm a pretty blue collar guy. But, they talked about they didn't want to have them operating Jake's Breaks in the parking lot. Well, Mayor Mattis didn't know what that meant. And he said, well, how are the trucks going to pull in and not use their brakes? How are they supposed to stop? And, I think they called it engine brake. But, that's when the trucks are going down a hill. All you hear is the pop, 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 pop. They use the engine. They use a certain valve system in the engine to force the engine to compress air, and it slows the vehicle. It's basically like putting your your vehicle in a lower gear when you're going down a hill. It puts the load to pushes the engine to spin faster, which slows the car. So they have a system on diesel engines. It's called Jake's brakes, engine brakes, and they couldn't use them. So I thought that was kind of strange. You know, they're not gonna. I mean, I guess he has to fill time. He has to ask fun questions. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. And sometimes they just don't seem to be there, and I don't think that's good. I think they're just kind of like a little out there with not really following along. You know, I've seen that happen a few times. So they're supposed to represent you. They're supposed to be a representative of what you would decide for your city. So reading through this, you can kind of make sure that they're making the decisions for the city that you agree with, that you like. And if they don't, you know, you run for office. Try to put yourself in there. So this other one here is award construction contract for, they're going to spend $2 million of your gas tax money and your registration fee money. The state of California has been collecting higher registration fees. And here it is. It's Camino Aventura up to Two Bunch Palms Trail. So one thing I thought was interesting was proposed new sidewalk, ADA ramps. You know, they're gonna make the sloped curbs at the corners. They're gonna put those things there where it's bumpy, so you don't slip and fall, I guess. Proposed new buffered bike lane striping with road lane width diet. So Two Bunch Palms proposed new striped crosswalks. So they're gonna have striped crosswalks all the way through here. They're going to the crosswalks. I don't know why that's yellow. Proposed new striped crosswalks. Why are they gonna? They're gonna put a crosswalk at that where that white like wood is, right by the new speed sign, or is that? Am I in the wrong spot? I don't think so. No, that's Vista Montana right there. I call it Montana because there's that little squiggly above the N. It's not Montana. So they've got some weird. They're going to have a crosswalk. And you know what I also find interesting is that whenever a big company comes in to Desert Hot Springs and is building, somehow the roads get fixed in front of them. Oh, is that weird? Isn't that weird? I mean, it's almost. Well, it's not almost like it's possible that they're requesting that, and the city is like a lapdog saying sure, you know. I mean, look for example, Indian Canyon. You go from just above the 10 freeway up towards Dillon, and they redid that road, and they're going to move all the poles for them to make that more efficient. What about all the other areas? No, and right here, this area is being worked on, and right in here, you're getting a grocery outlet. Grocery outlet's coming in right there. And this is where they're doing all that work. They're going to resurface the road. If you look through here, existing bus stops. I don't know why they have a T on there. Bus stops. The lights are going in, so when you're driving down that stretch of Palm and you're going to grocery outlet, you know, it'll be nice and well lit. So it seems to me like it's almost like a little bit of pandering to a big business that's coming in. They won't do this for some mom and pop shop up the street. They don't do that. They just leave it. So I just find it interesting that right around the time a big business is coming in is when they do this kind of stuff. It's just odd. It's not odd if you really think about it. So we'll see if there's another page here. The breakdown of I think so they put in a sidewalk that just ends in the dirt. I guess it's to dress up the palm trees they just put in, but it's just weird. I mean, spending money on it's free money, I guess, to them. So not free, we paid for it. So here's the 2,000,007. TriStar did 2,000,007. Desert Concepts meant 1.7 or bid 1.7, but the total comes out to be 2.034, $2 million. Total project budget right here is $2,034,621, and those are all the amounts. So you can see that developers impact fee. I believe that's when somebody develops an area, they got to pay some money in to pay for better roads and stuff like that. And then SB1 is $380,000, and then you've got active transportation cycle 3 grant funds, which is $772,000, $40,000 from sidewalk fund, and you get the 2.034 out of all those if you add them all together. So big money's being spent on that little stretch of road to put in. Yeah, that was the other thing. Was which I thought was weird. Let's see if it's on this one. No, it's not on this one. It was, what is a road width diet? Let's see if it's on here. I think it's on here. Yeah. So over here, I know there's already some laneage for bikes, but it says proposed new buffered bike lane striping with road lane width diet. So does that mean, because right now we've got 4 lanes plus a middle turning lane plus the 2 little side bike lanes. So what's the diet going to happen, and where are they going to diet? I think it means medians. They can do medians, or they can take away a lane. But if they, I can't imagine they're going to take it down to 1 lane each direction. So where's the diet going to come in? What are we going to lose to get that? I don't get that. I don't understand where that's going to be. Maybe they'll break it down this Tuesday. But okay, so I think we've gone over that enough. Okay, so options to fill, this is another important one. Options to fill city council vacancy created by the resignation of councilmember Aniela Zavala. Remember, she's leaving. She's going off to law school, she says. And, interesting last night that Henry Suzuki said that she's dating Mike Bickford's son, which I think was interesting. Not that it's not illegal. It's not what I'm saying. I do remember when I was running for mayor that I was meeting people at the church, St. Elizabeth's, and there's a family member at the church of Aniela Zavala, and she told me that she basically said, "Oh, Bickford's a good guy. We know people who work for him." Or so there's a favoritism there, and and this isn't about Bickford. I just wanted to highlight that I think they see him as a favorable guy. I went and met with him. He was nice to me. I know that. I didn't get any bad will from him. He invited me over to go see his new place he built in the old post office on Pearson, so that was nice of him. I don't have anything with him. I just don't like to see consolidation, and I see that these pot businesses are, like he was saying yesterday with the cash, they're putting it in town, they're buying up properties, and pretty soon you have a small group of people that own a majority of the properties, and it's just lopsided. It's just wrong. It creates problems down the line that show up later that people don't anticipate, but they naturally go there. So what they're proposing is consider an appointment process and timeline to fill the vacancy created by resignation of Councilmember Aniela Zavala and provide direction to staff. Okay, so let's break that one down. Consider an appointment process. So that I think they're gonna discuss. This is one option. Discuss, going through appointing somebody, and how they would go about appointing somebody, and a timeline. So how soon would they do that? Would they leave the seat open before it would be filled by somebody that they would appoint, and how they would appoint it? Then you have adopt a resolution of the city council to appoint a qualified individual to fill the office. So it looks like they probably already got this worked out, and they're just going to kind of go up there for a little bit of a show and go over this, because it says the second one is to adopt a resolution of the city council to appoint. So they're going to discuss what they probably already decided or discussed already, or already know about the options. Then they're going to pick one, and then it's going to be adopted, and then they're going to direct the city clerk to prepare a resolution of the city council giving call and notice of a special election for action at a future meeting. So one thing we know for sure is that they're going to want to get somebody who's going to be like them, somebody who's not going to make waves for them. So that's the protection choice they're going to make. They're going to pick somebody who's probably already served something. Maybe they'll wheel Carl Baker in there. I don't know, but they try to play it safe. Also, you can see that they've got 5 seats. They've got male, female, male, female, male. So you got a female that's going away. So it's likely that they're going to go after a female because they don't want to seem a certain way. They could go with a man temporarily, but if they go with a man temporarily, then by 2020 they're going to try to roll out a female. I believe they're going to try to balance this out, or a minority. Again, Anila Zavala, I believe she's part of a minority group. I think it's Hispanic. I'm not sure, but you have LGBT members. You have a black woman on there. You have a diversity on the city council, which is fine. That's so. What I'm saying is, you can expect them to try to continue that so that they don't get backlash for not having that. So that's one of the predictable things I think is going to happen. So they're going to direct the city clerk to prepare a resolution to the city council giving call and notice of special election. So that's going to be an interesting one to see what they decide on that. Then you get into landscaping, lighting, maintenance district number 1 intention proceedings for the levy and collection of assessments. Pretty much standard procedure unless something pops up. I didn't read through that one. Landscape and lighting maintenance district number 2 intention proceedings for the levy and collection of assessments. So they're going to talk about how they're going to pay for landscaping and lighting maintenance. Your taxpayer is going to pay for it. They don't create any money. They just take it from you and spend it. So they talk about how much more they're going to take from you, or where they're going to put the money they're already taking from you. Consideration of a revised city council meeting schedule for summer winter 2019. Oh, this is interesting. Take whatever action the city council deems appropriate. So consideration. So let's click on that and see if there's anything here. Yeah. There's a file they uploaded, so we'll read this. Time and date regular meetings. So staff proposes the following revisions to the meeting schedule through January 2020. July 16th, dark. 2019 dark. August 6th, 2019 dark. August 20th, dark. December 17th, dark. And January 7th, dark. So I don't know if it's July, 1 July, that's 2 in August. So I think they're looking in summertime to kind of go sleepy here and kind of fade away, which that's a little concerning because the city, just because it gets hot in the city in the summertime and a lot of snowbirds go away, doesn't mean that those of us who live here all year round shouldn't be given the opportunity to go to a city council meeting, because as they go dark on some of these, unless this is standard, I haven't looked into this fully, but if this means they want to cut out some city council meetings, then we don't have as many opportunities to go there and speak on issues that we have in the city. So I think that's a little bit, you can take notice a little bit on that. And then the rest of it is pretty much just delegation of investment authority to the city treasurer. So they're going to say, you have the right to invest city money, I guess. Fiscal year, payment register, the city council expenditures report of the month. So that'll be interesting. I want to see let's see if that's on here. I think a lot of times they just, so you can kind of pull this stuff up and you can see where the money's going in the city. You can see what they're spending it on. So here's a page. Just kind of scan through and look if there's general fund. $2,474 payment register. I'd have to drill into this to find out. Oh, it was a check. Okay, so here's check number. So this is what they're spending the city money on. Cholla alarm monitoring. So they're by law they're supposed to be transparent on this. I think there's probably some off the book stuff that they don't put on here, but probably not much because they run the risk of being audited and getting caught. So I think they, for the most part, try to stay legitimate and by the book. But I think there probably are some shenanigans. I can't prove that, but I think there are. But that's why we put pressure on them. That's why I'm here to put pressure on them, to shine some light in the dark, because they like to operate in the dark. So I think that's probably good with this. They usually put the most important things that are going to affect you in the beginning, unless they hide them. So you gotta look through, just scan through and make sure nothing pops up that they're saying. Resolution to do away with, I don't know, shopping carts or shopping bags, things like that. So I know they already have, but you got to look through, make sure they're not trying to slip something by you. So there's the city's website, and there's our strange time story about the pedestrian when we know that people get hit and they don't report on it, some of the time. Let's see, we did Drudge Report. The last one is this guy's website, which I think is it's very foretelling, and he likes to say he's tomorrow's news today, and it's true. I mean, I'll give you an example, and then I'll let you go. I'm not going to keep you here long, much longer. Drudge Report had what was the name of that story? There was an article about face scanning, and it was coming to Detroit, I think, and privacy and rights are important to me. I wouldn't be doing these videos, getting my face and my voice all locked in and recorded and identified into the cloud system, because that's what's happening. Is as every word I speak, the AI system is accumulating more words that I'm saying, and it can actually later on in time, if they want to ban certain people, they can just remove any of my voice, because the AI crawl bots will go through the whole internet and find my voice speaking based upon my cadence, my timing, and my tone, and they can mute it. So that's why putting stuff on the cloud is not always the best thing, and it's not the safest thing. You have to keep a hard record too. This, I'm not keeping a hard record of it because this is just daily stuff. But one thing, let me see, is this the article? Researchers alarmed by Detroit's pervasive expanding facial recognition surveillance program. You are being watched. Okay, so this is May 17th, 2019. May 17th, 2019. They're coming out and talking about the facial recognition, which is going to be in Desert Hot Springs, if it's not already. And it goes over to, who's the boss of who? It says we the people is the Constitution, but they're watching us, but we can't watch them. We only see what they tell us. There's no facial recognition cameras in the city hall that we have access to, but they have access to facial recognition police departments, which is in our city is a branch of our city government. It's a department, police department, the public works department. It's a department of the city. So if the police department has access to facial recognition, which means that anywhere you are, if there's a camera that picks you up instantaneously, the system can be alerted to where you are, your location, and that's already available with cell phones. Okay, cell phones track you. You take it with you. Criminals take cell phones with them, and they're tied to a family member, but all the police departments have to do is triangulate and find family members who have cell phones and of criminals, and sometimes the criminal has a cell phone himself and he's just driving around with it. And they can find you based on cell phone. They just don't want to roll it out yet because they don't want to scare people. So anyway, back to this. May 17th, 2019. With little to no public input, the city of Detroit created one of the nation's most pervasive and sophisticated surveillance networks with real-time facial recognition technology. Detroit's $1 million face scanning system enables police to identify and track residents captured on hundreds of private and public high-definition cameras installed at parks, schools, immigration centers, gas stations, churches, abortion clinics, hotels, apartments, fast food restaurants, and addiction treatment centers. So where's your privacy with that? So Detroit's $1 million face enables police to identify and track residents. Okay, we read that. Researchers at Georgetown Law's Center for Privacy and Technology say they're alarmed by Detroit's. Of course they're alarmed. But here's the thing. The point I'm getting at is that if you go over to, tomorrow's news today, and believe me, I check news across the board. I like people who have a strong, sovereign site that they can do what they want. And then I like to also read the ones who are just reading you talking points and pushing agendas, because that helps me understand the whole big picture on the macro level, or as Councilmember Russell Betts says, the 30,000-foot view. That's what he says. So let's do a search, because I did this the other day and it worked. It's called, the site's called Infowars. So the site basically what it does is it puts out it drills down into subjects and It doesn't really have to. And there's the Pope Francis calls for global governance to fight climate change. That's what I was talking about earlier. Maybe we'll click on that and then I'll wrap up with that. But C-SPAN has shows every day that most people aren't watching. They're reading their Us magazine. They're reading their People magazine. They're watching The View. Okay, they're not watching C-SPAN. Well, C-SPAN covers hearings in Washington. State legislations have people covering those, and this site has fed to it, or has, I don't think they find it all. I think that this site gets a lot of tips. They look for interesting news. And if you follow certain people on Twitter, they quickly put out interesting news that is not on the mainstream news. Okay, it's not being covered by the Desert Sun, not being covered by USA Today. It is not time yet. So the point I'm getting at is that if you type in and do a search, facial recognition, and then you put 2010, okay, and then you put the keyword InfoWars in there. It's going to be an article by them. Now, I already went to this and I found out that it was tied to the FBI. So I'm gonna, for the sake of finding time or saving time, I'm gonna add that to it. So there was a report back in, okay, this one probably covers it right here. So they covered it back in 2012, okay, 7 years ago. I think this is the one, yeah. All right, so when they say tomorrow's news today, today is tomorrow. And they reported on it today, meaning back in 2012. So facial recognition has been in the works, in the building stage, in the development stage for a long, long time. And you can see right here, there's a PDF. I'll see if it'll pull up. But the Federal Bureau of Investigation has reached a milestone in the development of the Next Generation Identification, NGI program, and is now implementing the intelligence database in unidentified locales across the country. New Scientist reports in an article this week. The FBI first outlined the project back in 2005. Okay, so you're going back even further. So 2005, 2015, that's 14 years ago. 14 years ago, the FBI was rolling out, or was talking about rolling out the facial recognition system. Now, 2005, when it says right here, the FBI first outlined the project back in 2005, explaining to the Justice Department in an August 2006 document. So we'll see if this document comes up. No, it's not. The page is not found. So here's Department of Justice. So we'd have to go back to the Wayback Machine to see if we could find it. Because after a little bit of time it rolls up, but I'm sure it's still able to be found. So all you have to do is you can type in like New Scientist. You can do a search on that. I won't do it and make you wait for that. But New Scientist, and then you take these keywords and you go back to the New Scientist article that will talk more in depth about it. It says, but they pulled the highlights out of it right here. The NGI program is a compilation of initiatives that will either improve or expand existing biometric identification services. Its administrator explained to the Department of Justice at the time, adding that the project will accommodate increased information processing and sharing demands in support of anti-terrorism. So everybody gets watched while they look for terrorists. There are much simpler ways to find terrorists, but that doesn't mean that they can spy on everybody. So they want to spy on everybody. That's why they use the terrorism to be able to do that. The NGI program office mission is to reduce terrorist and criminal activities, right, by improving and expanding biometric identification and criminal behavior information services through research, evaluation, and implementation of advanced technology. Well, honestly, as we get safer in the world, they just bring in more violent people. That's it's just what's happening. I'm not saying that everybody coming into this country right now across the border is violent. I'm not saying that, but people do pretend to be good that are bad, and they sneak in. And for example, on this website. So I'll close at the point. The point is that when you see stupid little kindergarten type stories put out today about technology that they want you to believe just came out today, All you have to do is just type in a year, 10 years before, type in the same thing, the same topic, facial recognition 2010, and you'll find it was already covered. It's not, but they don't want you to know until they want you to know. So that's why InfoWars calls themselves Tomorrow's News Today. I'm not the guy who runs it. I'm not that. I like the information. So I like the deep information. So Europe has been taking in, which is where we're headed. Europe has been taking in refugees. And it says new report finds Islamic terrorism in Europe has increased by 725%. So, obviously the facial recognition isn't going to stop enough. Maybe it's stopping so much. Maybe they're stopping so much that they have to import more to keep that level. It's a corporation. I said this at the beginning of this morning when I started here. You have to see the country as a corporation and how it's run. They have goals they want to meet, sales goals, or it's not sales, they're not selling anything, but like in a corporation, they have sales goals. They have units being moved. They want to move certain units. They want to expand. They want to take over markets, things like that. Well, the government is the same way. It's run the same way. It wants to expand, and it wants to have a monopoly control over the market. So what it does is it formulates plans, 30 years ahead of time, and they post those plans. They put those plans out, and anyone can read them. You just have to go digging for them. You have to learn to research, and as soon as I learned to really do well at researching, it's all there to see. And then all you have to do is like a migration path. Okay, if you have a herd of buffalo water buffalo in Africa, that every spring they head down to warmer climates, and spring they head up to cooler climates, and in winter they head down to warmer climates, right? They migrate. So if you know their migration path and pattern, you know where to head them off, and you know where to go and perch and watch them go by. So if we know the destination where city government, state government, federal government wants to go, we know their destination because they put it out for the last 30 years where they're going to go. Global governance and all this other junk. You just have to see them. You just have to watch for them doing it, drip by drip. But they're so predictable. It's insane. They act like they're just so clever or that it's original ideas. It's not. They just are delivering for other people. The city or the state, it's all being inserted and colonized. I mean, it's not hard to figure out. You know where they're going. Just watch them go there. How'd you know the water buffalo were going to go through here? They do it. They last year they were in the same spot, and the year before that they were in the same spot. And you can time it. When the weather changes, they start moving. How do you know that? Because it's foretold in their behavior. Just like it's foretold 30 years ago, they're putting it all out. So I think that's very interesting. I also check. So let's see what he says here, what the Pope says about global governance, and I'm going to. I might add it to in a link. I'll try to put this video up as a post on my website and newsanddhs.com, and I'll post the video, the compilation, just so you can see it. Pope Francis recently called for global governance to fight climate change, asserting the nation state cannot be considered as an absolute. It's so phony. I like the world. I believe the world needs to be protected, and maybe we should try a global government. Maybe it's like he came up with it during an address to the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences. The Pope condemned growing nationalism, and that neglects the common good, and called for more globalism. The nation state cannot be considered as an absolute and as an island with respect to the surrounding context, he said, adding, the nation state is no longer able to procure the common good of its populations alone. No. We need only a few people to decide for everybody in the world. I think that would be good. Yes, centralized power. Let's put power into the hands of a tiny group of people. Yeah, and watch where that goes. This is all so phony. What they're doing. I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna post the this funny video down here. You can go to the website and see it. I'm going to post a video of all these world leaders calling for global government like 10, 12, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, it's so ridiculous that they because there's people today, it's sad, but there's people today that are listening to the Pope going, oh, he's so righteous. Maybe we should go for global government. I think he's got our best interests in mind. And yeah, I think he's going to be right. They don't know anything. They don't research anything. They just go with the flow. And anyway, I hope I provided some levity with a little bit of imitation of the, that's really what this sounded like. It's like, oh, we're gonna have global government. So that was interesting. As I do kind of peek over the news before I come on in the morning, or I did this morning, and I'll do it before I come on each morning to know what I'm gonna kind of talk about. And then there's stuff that might pop up for me again, but. Oh yeah, our presidential candidate wants to get rid of Thomas Jefferson. Booty keg? How do you say that? Booty. I don't know. That's hard. That's hard to say. That's gonna be hard to have a president with that last name. If it goes there. Attacks Jefferson. The left wants to erase your history. So attacks Jefferson. So we have to. Just things in history that were not liked just have to be removed from history. That's crazy. That's crazy. You can't. He who controls, what is the saying? He who controls the past the present controls the past. He who controls the past controls the future. That's what it is. He who controls the present controls the past, and he who controls the past controls the future. So, very interesting. I'll come back at you tomorrow morning, and we'll go over some more stuff. Hopefully, we can find some interesting stuff, and I'll cover the city council meeting. It'll be fun. See what they decide. That'll be Tuesday. So until tomorrow, Desert Hot Springs. Let's end on my page here. Where are we at here? No, not that. It's morning. I'm slow. That's Desert Sun. That's Yahoo. Oh well. I don't know where it is. Well, let's pull it up. And then I'll let you go. So news and DHS. Oh, it's already got a little button. So I've been to it a few times. That's cool. Waiting. Computer's slow today. Sorry about that. Maybe it's crashing. Hate it when that happens. Oh, it's come up in like oh, there it is. Okay, so newsanddhs.com, your only source of independent news in Desert Hot Springs, your only source of unbiased news, although we all have a bias, I'll admit. We all have a bias. I'm biased towards liberty, and I hate corruption. So I'll look for it. If I find it, I'll point it out. If I don't see it, I'll tell you I don't see it. newsanddhs.com. I'm Steve R.J. Gibney, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.